Welcome, everyone, to another episode of Living Life with James. I'm James Kelleher, and today I'm excited because I have a force in media and storytelling, Olivia Fierro.
Hello, James. Thank you.
I'm so happy. I'm honored that you're here. Thank you for being here. I want to get into it. You are an Emmy-winning former news anchor turned media coach, public speaker, and hosting your own book club.
It sounds like I'm busy, but I feel like, what am I doing with my life? I need to get some jobs going.
Well, listen, that's why I want to get into it
Yes.
with you. But I'm thinking about all of the hats you wear,
Yes.
have worn, wear. You are like, you're all heart, you're all hustle. Everybody, Olivia Fierro.
Well, thank you so much. It's so nice to be here.
I'm in my connection era right now.
Yes.
I'm joking and saying who and how I connect with people, but there's something about energies.
Oh, yeah.
And when I met you, besides your fabulous personality, your energy. And that's why I just gravitated and I felt like we connected. So
Definitely.
again, thank you for being here. Olivia, I want to know some of the highlights out of everything that you've done.
Yeah.
What are some of the highlights that stand out for you?
Yeah, it's such a wild career to have been in. And oddly, I was never a person who knew exactly what I wanted to do when I grew up. When I was a little girl, I wanted to be both a ballerina and a Supreme Court justice. And I did not know why. I read actually a Sandra Day O'Connor little kid bio. I remember I was in second grade or something. And I was like, okay, I'm not into horses. Her story was, but I could do that, but I could also do ballet. And then, you start to realize, okay, no. And then even in my ballet school, they were like, I was getting to be too short at a certain stage. Like, okay, on to the next thing. And I went to college at UCLA, and I just was one of those people. I was like undeclared, here to have a good time. Oh my gosh, I've always wanted to be here. I want to be in a story. I want to be on this beautiful campus. Oh yeah, what am I going to learn and what am I going to do with the rest of my life was very last thought. And I had all these internships and I explored all these things that I thought sounded cool.
Yeah.
And when you hear something as a young person, but then you go there and you feel it, you're like, ew, process of elimination. I was like, I don't like anything. Working sounds terrible. And all these environments are weird and the people are mean.
So what would you, I'm glad you're saying this. What would Olivia today say to your 22-year-old self?
That it all works out. And that it's good, that all of the attributes that you naturally have will be the reason why you can build a career and be good at it.
Absolutely.
Because I have a lot of negative attributes. I'm a procrastinator, a poor time manager, very indecisive. But I'm also, the flip side of all those things is I'm very pumped about a lot of things. I'm really curious about people, and I enjoy connection and communication, and I want to learn stuff, and I love to know at least a little bit about a lot of things, and that kind of lifelong learning type of personality was obviously perfect for journalism.
Well, and there's something to be said about maybe leaning into that,
Oh,
right?
yeah.
Tap into that, explore that curiosity,
Yeah.
and see what that's about, because it will wind up, unfolding and playing out to clearly look where you are today.
Well, driving over here, we were talking about kids and just kind of when they find a space that fits and feels right.
Yeah.
And very much as an adult, or if you're thinking about career paths or life paths, or, what part of the country to live, or who to get serious with in a relationship, or whatever it is, I think a lot of people sort of push themselves to fit into some kind of space that's not organic to them.
Mm-hmm.
And so they wonder why it's so hard, or why other people, seem to ascend easier than they do. And it's because maybe you're not really in touch with what makes you feel good and what's natural to you.
Yeah.
So I think for me, that was a very natural path that I did one internship, and I was like, okay, if I have to be a person who works, which I do.
If I have to do this is what I'll do.
This would be a cool place because these people are funny and gossipy and curious, and it's very lively and it moves at a quick pace.
But Olivia, I'm glad you're saying that. I just did a podcast, and one of the things we were talking about is learning, and if we could only learn at an early age to not be in the box, to live in your true authentic self, right? And I'm hearing you say learning early on these things, exploring these things, having fun, and whether it's taking classes and seeing all these different parts of you, that's you saying, I don't want to stay inside this box. I want to get into that, but there's something to be said about you, that you are open and curious. Not everyone can do that.
Some would call it nosy, James, but that has a negative connotation. Being nosy
We're going
is
open and
okay,
curious.
though.
We're going open and curious.
Exactly.
Because there's, again, go back to your energy. There's something welcoming and warm about you.
Well, thank you.
What are some moments that maybe stand out for you? I mean, 2 decades is a long time.
Yeah. I mean, there was a moment. I have my dad actually on his desk has a photo of me, and I'm reporting from the top of, it was a tower that CNN was using in Washington, D.C.
Mm-hmm.
And so you can see the Washington Monument behind me.
Wow.
And I mean, I look like so young and eager, but trying to look very professional. So I've got like a bob and I'm in a navy suit.
I love it. You're playing the role.
Totally. I was like, Ann Taylor or Petite Sophisticates or something like that. And it was a really cool, it was the first time I got to follow a news story sort of to the culmination of it.
I'm thinking about what you've done, and being a journalist, I can't help but to think it has to affect your mental health, positive and negative, but it affects your mental health on so many levels.
There are times, I mean, the people who succeed the most are, I think, people like me who, like, I kind of have a sick sense of humor. So my husband is when I met him, he was a police sergeant, so he's retired now, but cops and reporters, firefighters are kind of the same in that the way that you learn to cope with some really tragic things is to be kind of inappropriate. So you're kind of, you kind of laugh.
Yeah, that's
you're kind of laughing, you're kind of whatever, making light of things because you're compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
And obviously then you oftentimes do have to face up to those emotions later, but that's
the key.
Yeah,
Thank you for saying that.
Oftentimes or all the time.
Yeah, compartmentalize, but the follow-up.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's how you're making it through those days are, there are strategies to it, or you're just very focused.
You saying that, it's like describing what one goes through in terms of grief.
Oh,
right?
sure.
If someone or a loved one passes away, I'm trying to take care of the
I'm
planning.
Gonna be busy. I'm
going to be
one.
busy,
Yeah.
right? I'm taking care of all the arrangements, and then it
all
hits
of a
you
sudden
months
it's
later.
over, and it's like, wow, why is this hurting so
How am I
much?
processing this for myself? I refuse to fail.
Yes.
Right? Almost your mantra to say, this is what's going to push me, because
Right.
there are a lot of scary moments. This is a lesson that many people can take.
Well, totally.
Right? You're saying there's something about hope. in
Totally.
this, right? If we can look back,
Yeah.
that experience would have been different for you.
Well, it's sort of funny because it's sort of like putting, you're manifesting something.
Look at the powerful, successful woman you are today, right? So to think back and to have those moments and to see where you are now, I mean,
yeah, I'm glad that I had
you.
the, which we would say is resilience to just, and the foresight to say, okay, this moment sucks.
Yeah.
I can make it better.
We use the word a few times, trauma. And I just wanted to mention, because I know it's pretty significant in journalism, right? Being a newscaster, I always describe secondary trauma. Sometimes we call it vicarious trauma. And it's what I like to consider like emotional residue from experiencing what I'm sure you've experienced many times, seeing something, whether someone passes away, whether you see a horrible accident, stories that you pick up on, how that affects you, right? And I'm wondering, how would you say your mental health has been affected with the experiences that you've had over the years?
I think obviously you get times of strain and intense stress. But what I kind of appreciated about the job was the privilege of helping people navigate through an experience or event. So I thought of it as like you're another person sitting at their table, or you're a friend or neighbor who's telling them something they need to know. And so you have the opportunity to present, frame your words, communicate in a way that gives validity, that gives like gravity that's appropriate to something painful that will impact the community, news that is sad, if you're, crimes against a child, or, or the resolution of a case that has the opposite ending of what you'd want, that you're able to kind of hold someone's hand and you're leading them through it. And at the same time, the ability to acknowledge your own emotions is really what allows you to do a good job of
You just said it beautifully. Thank you. But this is what you are meant to do, Olivia, because there's something about the word impact, right?
Yeah.
And showing up. And as you said beautifully, sitting at someone's table and what you have to offer and being there with them, right? I think that speaks volumes. And that's what the work's about.
Yeah.
Right? And I I would love to know 2 decades in the newsroom.
Yes.
Do you have any tea to spill? I think
Oh,
everybody
gosh.
would love to know. Is there
There's
any?
just so much.
Give us maybe one good story that is spilling some tea about the newsroom.
Oh my gosh. It's a hilarious place because it's all, I mean, it's like the most gossipy place in the entire universe. I mean, it is, because we're all the same. It's people who get into the business are just curious.
Yeah, we want to know what's
chatty,
happening. Yeah, I could see that.
There are
Okay.
very few shy people. I mean, there's some shy people, but in general, it's like just
all this high level energy running around.
Gosh, you know. And then it's just a lot of like,
I love
like
it.
this kind of amped thing. And then it's like, okay, everybody like crash, like, let's just stop talking. So, I mean, there's just been
story. Give us a story.
A zillion things. I'm trying so hard to think about. Our mutual friend, we were all girls who were working in news, we're on TV, and everyone was single and like going out. And it was like the funny parts would be, it's spring training. So which one of all these like, female anchors, who's going out and like meeting and making a hookup with like one of these ball players that's in town. I mean, it was like these things, times where like there was an energy shift where it was like.
So just going out and having a good time and the stories I can't imagine.
Yes, very. One of my girlfriends and I were very close still. Our sons are the same age. We were single. We were anchoring a weekend morning show. So we didn't have to be on the air until 7:00 at the time. So we would go out together at least one night a weekend.
Okay.
And we were, I guess, so immature or young enough to bounce back that we would be out at a bar and it would be like last call. And I would turn to her and be like, we should get a cocktail for last call, don't you think? And she'd be like, it's whatever time, we got to be on the air at 7. I was like, that's fine. And we would just be out until, whatever, and then roll in.
It's good to be young, right?
Right. So it would be like, you'd come in, you have like half a face of makeup, and then you'd be like 7 layers deep by the time the show was over. But it would just be hilarious because we would think, if the people who are watching us and listening to us tell them important stories only knew that 5 hours ago we were at a bar doing call shots.
You hear it here first, people. The people on the news all have their own lives.
Oh my gosh, it was just ridiculous, ridiculous. One day I was out with 2 other girls. It was the 3 of us who were supposed to be in studio for the show. Both of them no-showed. I ended up starting the show all alone, so we made it into a funny bit where I turned camera to camera to introduce myself and tease the different things, and had to do 2 hits of the weather, and then finally someone came in to help me. And I was like, girls, amateur hour. We were all out together.
We're discussing work-life balance. Exactly. Well, and you know what's funny though, as you're saying this, work-life balance in different decades, right? Because our 20s,
that's the difference.
20s look different than 30s and 40s, and dare I say, 50s.
Definitely.
Absolutely.
Most definitely.
So making sure you take care of yourself and you show up personally and professionally.
Exactly. And you have to, the one thing I will say, this is something important to say, is that there's a perception that it's very catty or that it's it is a very competitive business. And there's a shallow element to being on TV. So you've got people who are smart, who are journalists, who are excellent writers, who want to do like a good community service, but they also want to like look good and be on TV and like be recognized.
There's
TV
and shows right now like that.
Yeah, there's all the stuff. So, but I will, like, especially my experience is I made lifelong friends. It was like joining another sorority. It really was, where you also had to say, like, it's almost like a casting, where we're all different types mostly. And so it's like, it's highly unlikely that I'm going to take a promotion from you or you, me, we're different. And so that sort of, that mentality works because you're able to just like put away competitive nature
and be able to support each other, right?
And celebrate each other and have fun.
Yeah.
And so in those, especially those early years, the moments were like, it was perfect. We were just having so much fun.
That is a sound bite in itself. I mean, this is a clip in itself, right? The reality of how to have a strong sisterhood, women in the workplace, how to be able to be supportive without the competitive nature.
Yes.
And to be able to lift each other up.
Yeah. And right? I think I even had experiences where I would say definitely a boss was trying to undermine that. And they would kind of try to sow little seeds of discord because the higher ups or whoever's in charge, we'll call it, just say the man. The
Yeah.
man benefits from there being distress down here and distrust. That's in any structure in the
You can
country,
write
in
you
the
can write a
world,
book on this, I'm
right?
sure.
This is how. So, it's like, well, I don't know, I'm maybe going to move you up. Maybe I'm going to swap you guys positions. Oh, maybe, you're like breeding
Mm.
little things of competition when
Mhm.
it's not naturally there. And so it's very powerful to say, and this was a great thing with my last anchor team on Good Morning Arizona. We just said to each other, like, we have a code. We're a team. We've got a great thing
Like
going.
strength.
We're a team. We are never going to turn against each other and bring them in. If we've got an issue that we
I
want
love
to take to
this.
the bosses, we're collectively going to support each other and bring
Let
it.
this be a
Yeah,
moment, not just in the workplace, but friendship and
totally.
romantic
Yeah.
relationships. A code, right?
Mm-hmm.
Protect our
Mm-hmm.
house. What's something that you would want them to know about you at this point in your life?
At this point in my life, I am hopefully a perpetual explorer. I'm like, I love to travel. I want to go everywhere. Part of why I love to read is because I love to explore other people's
Yeah.
minds. I love to know what people are thinking and feeling. And, you only have one life. And I read a quote somebody said that was basically like, you know, you only have one life. And so if you're not reading potentially hundreds of books,
Mm.
you're not reaching your potential of experience and understanding, because you can only do so many things, right? We're born where we're born, and we're born in the skin we're
Yes,
born in,
thank you
and
for
all of
that
the things.
reminder,
Like,
because we get so consumed with life, we forget just to sit
to
with a
sit,
book and
yeah,
take it in. And there's so much knowledge there that can be
the
had.
knowledge, empathy, frame of reference for
Yes.
other experiences that you haven't had. Like, it's really an important part of my life. I want to do this media coaching and communications coaching.
Is being able to sit with someone and have a level of empathy, compassion.
Mm-hmm.
And to me, that's the connection.
Mm-hmm. It's about being authentic. And I did a couple coaching sessions with a local nonprofit, and the first group was a small group of women, 4 women, and they had all recently promoted. And so it was it ended up kind of more being, because these are really smart, they really know
Yes.
their field, and they're experts. And it was really more about sort of personal cheerleading in forcing them to kind of break the habits that we have of, like, being
Yeah.
so humble and diminishing what you've accomplished, more like presenting yourself as an expert, learning to brag about the work that you're doing, because in
Absolutely.
that way you're elevating your organization,
Yeah.
and get used to kind of telling people, like, what did you accomplish? What impact are you having? Like, you'll never believe, this. What is a story that you would want to tell, your grandma, that you want to be
And
proud
people,
of you?
yeah, people don't have that. People need that. There's,
Yeah.
something
And
to be
your
said about that.
voice is, you may not say things perfectly, or, English may not be your first language, or, you may be used to seeing a person that looks and sounds like that, being the person that's a spokesperson for, this organization. But your unique voice is the one that people want to hear. So that's sort of like
I
kind
think you
of a
just
mind
answered my
shift.
question. I was going to ask you, what would you say is the number one quality to someone showing up authentically?
Accepting that you don't need to be like anybody else. So when I first started reporting, I'll never forget making an audition tape. And it was
Uh-huh.
so funny because I sat and looked at it with a news director, and he said something so cute. He was being encouraging, but he said something like he could very much tell that I was acting the part of what I thought a reporter did. So, and then it was like he pointed at this moment, and it's like you could see in my face, like, whew, nailed it. You could kind of see that, like,
Yeah.
so I had been like saying something and saying it in a cadence that was something I had heard, and it wasn't quite myself. And he said, when you figure out how to do this part, which is you've already, the writing part and the whatever, and
Yeah.
the timelines and the storytelling and the bits that make a good story. When you figure that part out, but to do it as you is when everything will hit a trajectory.
Which comes with time and experience. Because I'm thinking
Exactly.
about even myself when I first started my career, right?
Mhm.
Wondering what approach and learning different approaches to therapy,
Mhm.
and thinking I was almost robotic in the way that I was delivering certain messages and
Mhm.
talking about, emotionally focused therapy or cognitive behavioral therapy, and feeling like I had to do some psychoeducation and losing myself.
Mhm.
And, fast forward 20 plus years, I can sit with someone, not only have my toolbox, but there's something about being myself, being
Yes.
authentic and showing up. And that's what people want to see. That's the connection
That's
again.
the connect. And that's, experience and learning to trust yourself.
Absolutely.
And the more time that we spend, and that's kind of the beauty of any profession or and it doesn't
Yeah.
have to be a profession, but your neighborhood, your organizations that you volunteer with, whatever, the more times that we're spending quality, attentive time with other people, the better we learn how to read what somebody needs from us so that they're comfortable enough
Thank you
to
for
be
that
themselves.
reminder. Yeah, we need that reminder because
Yeah.
the reality is, I think it looks different. While I feel like I am
Right.
authentically me,
Mm-hmm.
when you're in new spaces, that
Mm-hmm.
can be challenged.
Oh, definitely.
And I've noticed that over the last year
Mm-hmm.
with being on TV, with
Mm-hmm.
being on social media, right?
Mm-hmm.
That balance of, oh my gosh, James, you need to be professional, but you
Mm-hmm.
also need to connect and be yourself
Mm-hmm.
and trying to balance that. So thank you for
It's
the reminder.
hard. And I've kind of also have some aspirations for doing more public speaking in terms of like developing a keynote. And the outline that I've been working on has a lot to do with kind of the strength and the sense of self that can grow from very harsh criticism.
Mhm.
And not to make a space for that criticism, because what I'm talking about, like when you're on television, the viewers have a lot to say, right? A
That's
lot
so
to say.
true.
And a lot of it is constructive, and a lot of it is
Yeah.
sweet, and a lot of it is, an inflated sense of familiarity, but really you're part of their day, and they know, so they do feel very justified in telling you that your outfit today is ugly or whatever.
But it's what you're going to do with it.
Exactly. But there are people who are extremely cruel, and people whose, sense of self, I think, is built upon, really trying to make
I
sure that
agree.
they hurt other people. That's there's a whole species of people,
Yes, there
and
are.
that's reality.
Yeah.
And you are going to run into those people in probably every, sphere of the world, especially now that we're all connected in the platforms that we are. So learning to decide that, either it's a little inspiration where it's like, you're going to give this person the biggest middle finger by being your happiest self that very next day.
That's
and
it.
doing the exact thing that
Yes.
they told you. The reason why everybody hates you in their opinion and all of these things
Yes.
is either it's that, or it's you give it zero air and it's in a closet someplace in your mind so deep that it's just learning to. There are some opinions that matter and that are worth your attention,
Absolutely.
even if they're not complimentary. And there are some opinions that absolutely are not worth your time or attention in any way.
Not only giving that time, but I think the mindset, right?
Mhm.
Your mindset of how you're going to go through this. I think that speaks volumes.
And I think it's funny because, it used to be a very unique thing to us. I mean, the girls, and we used to make it a sport of like reading these messages that we would get. It's like, okay, I got one, I must be pregnant because I look so fat. Like, why don't I, whatever. You're like, oh,
I can only imagine.
all the things, but, and there was a collective community because we were open to sharing this stuff with each
Yes.
other. So that was very helpful. But I do think, it's one of my concerns, like as a mom with kids and social media and just sort of the world that we live in now, because, if you're a woman in your 30s and you're with other professional women and you got into this profession and, you're enjoying all of these perks of it, and this is the crap that you deal with to do this other stuff.
Absolutely.
We're equipped to deal with that. Young teen or tween is not equipped to deal with that.
That's
any
what
capacity.
I've been saying, as a grown man and as a therapist, if I can feel the sting,
Yeah, it hurts.
I can only imagine what our younger generation and teens. So that's why
kills me.
Absolutely, I'd love, and I have this platform to be able to talk about how mental health matters and the impact and tools to navigate through, whether it's online bullying or just, your own mindset and mantras to get you through.
Right.
Yeah.
A detective in sex crimes, so that's a whole other
That's
bag.
a whole other bag.
But to be
Jeez.
our child is awful because we're super paranoid, very, very protective.
We have to set them up with the tools, right?
Yeah, well, I think we take it to the extreme, and we know that we need to chill out. But it's easy to fall into a sense of fatalism because you have literally spent your days thinking, talking, observing, interacting with the worst things that can happen. So every time he's like, can I walk over to the Panera over there and whatever? And I'm like, on that road with this going on, like that, you know, and I've got 17 reasons why it's deadly.
That's where I am in my journey at this point in my life.
Terrible.
Is that fine line of balancing, right? How not to helicopter parent. You want to be protective, but you also need to instill that independence and freedom. And listen, that's a whole other topic. I want to leave with the top 5, and I want to ask just the fun, silly top 5 questions for Olivia. What brings you joy or happiness lately?
Oof. My dog.
Your dog. Love it. What songs
Golden
make you,
Doodle.
what song, if there's a top song, what song makes you want to dance right now?
Oh my gosh. What just came on the radio? It's going to sound dated because it's like 4 summers ago. But when Harry Styles' Watermelon Sugar comes on, I cannot help it.
There's something fun. Okay.
I cannot help it. And it's worked its way into my Spotify playlist lately that are like, you know, feel good.
It brings you joy.
Yeah. Mood boost or joy. They have those. So yeah, it's in there.
What's your favorite favorite go-to comfort food or a guilty snack?
Oh Lord. Well, I'm Mexican, so I love Mexican food.
Okay.
So chips and guacamole, salty and spicy.
Go.
If I had to give up sweets for life, I would be okay with that. I gotta go with the crunch. Yeah.
What grounds you?
Yoga.
Yoga. Okay.
I mean, I should say family and stuff like that. Yoga has been
your peace.
Yoga has been vitally important to my well-being. I'm otherwise, I think, really high-strung and kind of like too crazy.
Grounds you. If there was one book you can gift, what book would that be?
That's easy. Elizabeth Gilbert's Big Magic.
Oh, I have to read that one.
Oh, it's a life changer. True. Now, I should write her a letter because since I'm in my stage now where I don't know what I'm doing with the rest of my life, I'll this book led me to deciding to leave my job.
Wow.
Well, when those ideas are coming and like tapping you on the shoulder, they're tapping other people too because they're an energy that wants to come to fruition.
This sounds like right up my alley. Okay, don't say anymore.
Yeah,
don't. I'm going to go out and get it. Mine, I would say, you made me think The Alchemist. Have you ever read The Alchemist?
I love The Alchemist.
Alchemist.
I actually was telling myself I need to reread it.
I got to reread it again.
It's been years, but I've got it on my bookshelf, and that's
Olivia,
beautiful.
Thank you so much for being
here.
This
was so fun. You are such a pro.
I'm trying.
Give me a break.
It's an experience. It's time. It's a process.
Oh, I loved it. You're a joy to be with, and in spite of the fact that I'll never get back the hours that are going to be taken because of the 90-day franchise. Now that I'm hooked into it, I had to watch you. So if you didn't watch The Last Resort with James, making Arizona look so gorgeous, by the way, you must. And I loved cheering for you, and I just loved this whole thing. So
I appreciate you, Olivia.
Exciting.
Thank you again.
Thank you
so much.